PJ, hello, and thank you so much for making time here on Jannelle.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us about your latest project. I've seen the screener. It's about 20 minutes long, and it's very interesting. I'll let you do the talking.
Yeah, Come and Take It is a short documentary that follows Jessica Jin and her transformation from college student to one of America's most irreverent anti-gun violence activists.
Strap them onto your bags, leave them on until guns are out of our classrooms.
For me, it's very much about the growing pains also of understanding the power of being an organizer.
And as a storyteller, I like how you presented her conflict. She had strong feelings about gun violence and conceal and carry issue, but what you did was she didn't want to be out there. She didn't want to be the face of this movement. She became a reluctant activist or a reluctant leader, so to speak. You communicate that very well in the interviews and in your choices of sound bites.
Thank you. I mean, I think the thing that's amazing about Jessica in particular is that, you know, for me, she's an example of someone who probably people would, underestimate in terms of the power that she can actually have, as a voice of a movement, as a leader. And I think she herself is surprised by it, and we see that in the film.
This is not a unique feature for you because in all your works, you have always highlighted social issues. You've highlighted LGBTQ issues, most especially with Call Her Ganda, Trinidad, Before You Know It. Was that something that you set out to do, or is that the story developing and you finding that you have this power in the middle of working on it?
For me, as an artist and as a creator, I do want to use my skills and my knowledge of storytelling to help support movements that are happening and better the lives of many. And I think film is one of the most powerful mediums to do that, right? You can share someone's story, you can give someone an experience that they would never have otherwise. And I think that really allows for film to be a tool for empathy and for understanding, and ultimately connects people to one another and makes us understand that, our lives are maybe not that different, or how we can relate to someone whose story seems so different from ours, yet, that is the human connection, right?
What piqued your interest more particularly in Jennifer Laude's story?
Jennifer Laude, I think, her story was really touching to me in that, I think she has become a symbol for a lot of different things. From the larger perspective, she's a symbol of continued American imperialism in the Philippines. From a more basic human level, she's also a symbol for those who are fighting these larger foreign superpowers. But for me, I think the story of Jennifer Laude is one that's actually inspirational. Like, I understand, yes, this is, Jennifer's story is tragic in how she was killed and how she was treated. But I think the reaction to what happened to her and how it galvanized really the country, right? It galvanized the whole nation, and it created this movement that was largely led by women and trans people, queer people. And I think that act of solidarity and allyship to stand up to a foreign superpower is really inspiring.
There's a lack of justice in many trans people's lives. Members of our community are killed every day.
And in a way, because of your work with her story, you were given the insights and privileges to see beyond what people see, and even to see beyond the movie or the documentary that you made. And so I'm interested to find out how you feel right now after hearing that President Duterte in the Philippines has pardoned Jennifer's murderer.
Myself, along with many others, were, frankly, very furious over it. I do think it's a slap in the face to the Philippine justice system. The fact that the administration's own Department of Justice and also, the Bureau of Corrections, the fact that they themselves did not agree with the calculation shows, right, that there was something there, that a pardon really is not taking into account what is fair. And it's quite a disappointment. However, I don't think it's a complete loss, because even with a pardon means that a crime had happened, right? And there was a conviction that actually took place. And so I do think that is something for us to remember, is that there is something historic that happened, which is Pemberton is the first U.S. serviceman convicted of a crime in the Philippines.
what do you think is going to happen next? I'm sure you're in the know. I'm sure different organizations are contacting you and you're in touch with them. Where is this headed?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been, like, there's a unity statement that came out recently where, a very large amount of LGBTQ plus groups came out. We're starting to see even more public figures denouncing this presidential pardon. And I guarantee this is not the last you will hear from the Laude family or the Laude family's attorney Virginia Suarez. I think they will continue to, fight for justice.
The transgender movement is big right now, and there seems to be a reckoning of movies telling their story. We're seeing this success, so to speak. Diane Paraga's Yellow Rose has been picked up by Sony as well. Would you consider this a trend? To what do you attribute this to? That Hollywood, perhaps, the industry, the mainstream industry is paying attention?
Filipino Americans are the second largest Asian American group in the United States. And clearly the numbers are rising, but yet there's very little representation both in front of and behind the camera. And so I think the industry is finally recognizing that there is a need for Filipino filmmakers and unique stories from Filipino communities to be shared, because there are audiences that are wanting to see them and hear them. These are unique stories that need to be shared. And so hopefully the industry is paying attention to that, and this is just a small crack in the door, and maybe the door is going to open even larger after this.
And I also like that you Filipino filmmakers, it seems to be a tight community of Filipinos filmmakers supporting each other.
It's interesting because, up until more recently, there had been a lot of Asian American film community organizations or, meetups that have happened. And it's only been more recently that it's been very specific Filipino or Filipinx, filmmakers coming together. It's been really wonderful. I think a great example is, Yellow Rose, Lingua Franca, like a lot of those producers, for instance, have worked on several of these films together. Cecilia Mejia, for instance, who's the producer of Yellow Rose, and also, I believe, a co-producer of Lingua Franca, is an impact producer on Call Her Ganda, and also this short film of mine, Come and Take It. So there is a lot of overlap, and we're trying to help each other and trying to be supportive of each other as much as possible, because a win for one of us is a win for all of us.
I love that. Collaboration over competition. So with that said, could we see perhaps a collaboration of all these like high-flying achievers of Filipino Americans in the film industry?
Personally would love to see that. There's nothing really formal in place. But yeah, I mean, it would be great to see someone form a production company or someone form like an official program. Thankfully there have been things like the Cinematographo Festival, for instance, which brought a lot of us together. Ava DuVernay's Array now, brought a lot of us together to screen our films. So there are these things that are happening. Obviously there's organizations like CAM, or VC in Los Angeles, that are doing these things too. But yeah, it would be great to see something more official. If you start it, I will be there.
I have to. Let's talk about that. Let's get this out even more. What's on the horizon for director PJ Raval?
Yeah, I have a lot of, kind of shorter projects that are currently in the works. A lot of docuseries type, projects. I have one that I'm doing about Filipino Americans in the United States. One that a project that I'm calling Kapwa that I'm making with Cecilia Mejia. I'm making a docuseries that's based off of a project called In Plain Sight, or it's part of a project called In Plain Sight, which is a collaboration of 80 plus visual artists and organizers who are protesting immigrant detention centers by skytyping over them. But, one thing you can count on is that I'm very interested in telling more stories from the Philippines and the Filipino American communities, and that's something for sure I'm working on.
You seem to be very busy with a lot of the stuff that you're doing, and I like how you're giving voice to the voiceless with your choice of projects. Go ahead, invite our viewers to check you out, check your project out, and where can we follow you?
You know, as I mentioned, I'll be having a short film that I co-directed and co-produced with Ellen Spiro that's going to be released soon called Come and Take It. Call Her Ganda, which is a feature documentary that I have, is still in wide distribution, and with all the recent news, I'm trying even harder to get this film out there to, you know, put it in front of people and have them understand the story of Jennifer Laude. And if anyone else is interested, you know, they can visit my website.
Thank you so much for making time for us. I'm sure this isn't going to be the last time that we'll see you here on So Jannelle. I hope you'll grant us more time next time.
Oh, absolutely. And I have one last thing to say, which is happy birthday.
Oh, thank you so much, PJ.